To everyone here in the room, and also we have a lot of people who are on the live stream today watching the live stream. So hello and thank you to everyone watching the live stream. My name is Carly. I'm the program director at Interactive Ontario. We are co-hosting Arts Futures with the Cultural Human Resources Council this summer. It's a new program and it is funded by Canada Council for the Arts, so I'd like to thank them for making it possible. The slide you'll see up there right now has a list of all of the sessions that we're doing as part of the series this summer. I'd also like to thank the Toronto Media Arts Centre, which is this venue that we're in today. It's a new space here in Toronto that houses 4 media arts organizations. So thank you to them for letting us be here. I'm going to get started today. I will pass things over to our first presenter for our morning session, Dr. Catherine Moore from the University of Toronto.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Carly. I was really happy to be invited to be involved in this new initiative from Interactive Ontario, and very happy to be spending some time with you here today. I'll be here during the lunch also, so if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them then. If you have questions as we go along, please do that. Please do that also. All right. The title of my presentation, get my slides up here. As you can see, uses this notion of permafrost, because permafrost is a way to think of where the music industry was. And music consumers and media creators now have the new tools to work across media and incorporate ever more immersive experiences into what they create. When technology behind these creations disappears, however, the artwork disappears also. And the rapid rise of digital platforms for user-generated videos and music streaming services have recovered a huge amount of recordings that had been deleted during the time of physical-only distribution. And although this made tens of millions of pieces of music available, which hadn't been available, it overwhelms listeners who end up going back to the same thing from over and over again. What this means is that even more music disappears. So even though it has become available, these platforms also hasten the demise because people are just overwhelmed. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about business pressures to future-proof, to scale, and to adapt. I'm going to look at those using examples of media in augmented reality apps. I'm going to focus on 2 apps. One is called EyeJack, and one is called Layar. And also music in the home environment of smart speakers, which are steered by artificial intelligence. So we start by looking at environmental change and strategy decisions. So here's what happens when permafrost starts to melt. And we can easily consider this in terms of what happened in the music industry. Those who had controlled the music industry in this melting, this unbound situation, caused erosion in their business, caused subsidence to the roads that they've built to control the business, and caused landslides in their revenue. New entrants emerged in this environment. And digital technology liquefied what had been, as we just talked about, the physical permafrost of music. And what I want us to start thinking about is this idea of media co-creation, and where the consumers of music are not just receivers of music that others have prepared, but they're makers, marketers, and distributors of music. People often talk about user-generated content, but it's also user-distributed content. Digital technology gave recorded music a new fluidity of access. Again, we have these continuous playlists from streaming services, which are driven by artificial intelligence, and these often will replicate the experience of pre-programmed radio. Most people are not at home making their own playlists. They want something that they'll like, they want easy access, they want to be able to just press a button, select their mood, and have music that they will enjoy. So we have this perpetual marketplace, but we also have obsolescence and obscurity. And the business success of a technology may depend on obsolescence, but may depend on exactly the opposite, may depend on permanence. So we have these business pressures to future-proof, to scale, and to adapt. And these all require music creators to respond. And you'll see here I've just put a few examples of how some of these creators have responded. And I want you to note a couple of things. There have been performers and composers for music as long as there's been music, for thousands of years. Once music was recorded, there were producers. And in a lot of situations, most particularly with experimental music, hip-hop, and also electronic music, performers, composers, producers all blend together. They're all one and the same. You can't identify that someone only does this one part of the process. But we also have consumers. One of the things that drives consumers is they want to make fun things to share. Regardless of the type of music, across a lot of age groups, Smule is an example, which is a lot of teens use it. It mashes together karaoke performances of popular songs, which then you can perform with the original artist, perform virtually with the original artist, and then, of course, post on your social media. The different ways that creators of these kinds of cross-media, digitally focused artworks really varies. There's a whole spectrum between wanting your creation to be permanent and not. I had the opportunity last weekend to be at the Vector Festival here in Toronto. They do digital artwork, performance art, a lot of other things connected to that. They're in their 6th year now, I believe. So these were, and there was a panel of some of the creators, four creators were there, and I had the opportunity to ask them, to what extent do you regard your work as permanent? And these were artists who are experimental artists who invent new musical instruments, perform coding live, computer coding live, interact with chatbots, interact with avatars. So here's a selection of some of their answers. My work is all ephemeral because I don't control the platforms. Some Bluetooth things I used to use are gone now. So therefore, what I did with them is also gone. We made this piece for this specific time in this specific place for the people in the room at that specific time and place. Performance can't be replicated. It's always different. Video misses the thing you feel by being there. And then an artist who works in Second Life said, I made this piece 10 years ago in Second Life. And I made some video documentation of the process because I knew that some of what was in Second Life would disappear. Most of what was there then is gone now. And what this artist does is a performance interacting with that piece from 10 years ago, but also live interaction with avatars and other current online virtual reality situations that are going on during the performance. So again, there's a whole range of opinions. I speak to choreographers who say, when I die, I want my choreography to die. I don't want it to go on. I made this choreography for specific people, specific bodies to move in a specific way, so they're all going to die, I'm going to die, it will be gone, and that's what I expect. So these business pressures are, regardless of what your art is, you need an audience, some sort of audience. Whatever scale it is, artists don't like to consider themselves business people. There tends to still be a lot of resistance across the different talents, and is something that I regard as being an obstacle. I regard it as being an obstacle to thinking in new ways. If you look at people who are in business, they're imaginative, they're creative, they take risks, they do exactly the same thing that we tend to associate with people who are artistic. So that's why I'm framing this as thinking about business pressures, and when I'm talking about strategy in a couple of slides, you'll see how that works. So consumers are now creators, and via platforms such as Kickstarter, they're also direct investors in creating new things. So responding to change and thinking about the business potential. Again, whatever scale you're operating on, you need to think about the fact that you have strategies. You have a creative strategy, you have a partnership strategy, who's going to help you make this happen. You have a technology strategy, which should be based around what you want the technology to do, not starting from, here's this technology, we want it, but you have to think about your organization and what do you want to do and what technology do you want to do that. But also think of a user experience strategy, because your user experience, your customer satisfaction is what drives value for your enterprise. So as we move through, I've got 6 examples to go through, and I want you to keep in mind the strategies and the decisions that went into the situations that I'm going to describe. The examples are musician, visual artist who's also an app maker, record label, music instrument interface, and the acquisitions of apps as we look more into the merger and acquisition and business future of different augmented reality apps. So be alert to what decisions were made, why were the decisions made, how does music add value, and how does music gain value in these new situations. So digital strategy within these fluid environments, because the environment is not going to not be fluid. Creates opportunities, opens new paths to build docks and to build and have moorings. And that's not just a pun on my name, but I just realized that it is right now. All right, so incorporating music into augmented reality. These examples focus on this with 3 artists. From the UK, electronic musician Throwing Snow uses Layar to make album art move. I'm going to show you an example of that in a minute. Canadian artist, visual artist Scorpion Dagger uses that same app. These are the 2 app names, Layar and EyeJack, to put comics into art. I'm also going to show you an example of that. And then EyeJack is a visual artist called Sutu, who created the EyeJack app to activate animation and sound in 2D art. Okay, so Throwing Snow. So this is album art. This is how it's on YouTube with the heading, there is a secret hidden within the embers cover. Now this was only on the artwork for the LP. It was it's not on the CD, and this is what it looks like. Let me just do this. We did not test sound, so I'm hoping there's sound. So this is an example where hang on, let me just stop this here. Where just go back here. So this is an example where that music is actually from that album. And the artwork, to do that, I just played it off a YouTube video, but you download the Layar app, you point it on your phone or on your tablet, whatever your device you're using, you point it, and that's what happens with the sound and with the image. It fits aesthetically the music. The concept of the album is circular. It's connected to the earth, it's connected to the elements, so you can see how visually it supports what is happening musically. Scorpion Dagger, Canadian artist. Right, I was in Montreal last month. This is St. Catherine Street, and these artworks here were along the street. So you can get an idea of the size of them. The artist's name is James Kerr. Throwing Snow's name is Ross Tones. Scorpion Dagger's name is James Kerr. I got to the end of the exhibition, and there was a little description of the work, and it said, use your Layar app. And I thought, oh, hey, I've got that thing from the Embers album. I've got that on my phone. Let me just try this out. So for instance, the one on the right here where it looks like somebody, it's kind of tiny here, but it looks like somebody getting very red suntan on a beach, but it's actually, once it's animated, it's actually a hot dog. So they're very comical. And you'll see another example in a second. The ones on the left there are, one of the themes in Scorpion Dagger's work is taking Renaissance art and turning it and animating it in an absurd and often comical way, as we'll see in the next example. So this is from Scorpion Dagger's own Instagram. All right, because one of the things about doing work like this is where do you distribute it and how does that get supported and how can people find it? And I found a lot of material, animated material online for Scorpion Dagger on a website that is, one assumes, in Germany. There's a German, it's a German country code on the telephone number that's given on the homepage. A company called Klutoo, K-L-U-T-O-O, may or may not still be active. They have their own social media is only, the last posts were almost 2 years ago in 2016 on all their social media. But their website's still very active, and there's a huge amount of, lots and lots of animated examples from Scorpion Dagger on that website. Another thing that's on the homepage, right up front on the Klutoo homepage, gives you a real sense of this new environment and the shortness, the brevity of artworks, of multimedia artworks. I'm quoting from their webpage. Digital media changes every second. Audiences alter their habits on a daily basis. Thus, the only way to keep the conversation alive is to turn to the outstanding artists who reinvent the digital landscape day by day. Artists with the ability to tell stories within 3 seconds. On a mobile, in social media, on a watch, or a display in your city. So what Scorpion Dagger has done is put things on his own Instagram. Because Instagram right now is a stable platform. It could go away. But for now, it's a stable platform. A lot of people are using it. There's more and more music on Instagram all the time. So let me go to that tab. And this is his, oops. This is what Scorpion Dagger's Instagram looks like. And this is a recent post. That's the one that I just pulled a screenshot of for the previous shot. You just open it up, and then you play it. So it's about 37 seconds. On the Instagram post here, he identifies that this was a collaboration with the Musée des Beaux-Arts in Montreal. And in fact, on the museum's own Instagram feed, there's this same item with a description saying, we love this, we love that you play around with our art. This is a painting called Tuning a Lute, which is why it starts with Tuning a Lute. And it goes, as you can see, in an endless automatic loop for as long as you want to listen to it. There's also a credit there for the music. That's the part when the hair starts going and we start getting into a very different type of music, and where the humor and just comedy comes in, is using, so there's an acknowledgement for the gallery that exhibited the work, which was exhibited separate from the Musée des Beaux-Arts, which holds the original artworks. There's a credit for a company who provided the music called Maximum Rotting Corpse by Butcher ABC. So you see there's 24,000 views of this. And this was posted on July the 4th. So not that long ago, and you'll see that there's quite a lot of visibility here. Now, one question that can come up about this is in terms of royalty payment for music. And when you see several of the recent examples from Scorpion Dagger on Instagram do give a music credit. So they identify the source of the music. I don't know what's being paid in terms of royalties. What I do know is that one of the questions for the music industry in the digital world at large is, how do you count that? Is that a play? It's 37 seconds. We listen to it once and a half. What would that even count as in terms of counting revenue? And in terms of generating royalties? Because royalties can't be generated if the music use can't be A, identified, and then B, tracked. So then our third example here of is Sutu in Australia. So this is music and animation activated in two-dimensional art. So I found out about Sutu because I went to the House of VR just down the street here, down the street there, on Queen and Bathurst. And they had an exhibition of some of his work. They also had this book called Prosthetic Reality. So I got the book, I downloaded the app at the exhibition. There were several items that were on the wall. They were probably about this big by this big. There was a sign up saying, download the EyeJack app. And so people did that, and they could look on their phone. They had a couple of tablets in the space, and you could see them animated. I didn't know that there was sound with them. When I saw they were selling the book at House of VR, I said to them, oh, this is interesting. I started leafing through and seeing what was in here and some of the items. There's about 45 items in here. It's artists from all over the world. And I said, I don't suppose there's any sound in here, is there? And they said, oh, yeah. So I said, all right, I'll take it. So I have greatly savored this book. I do have a way to project it here, but in the interest of time, and I'll be here at lunch and you can try it out. I've got my tablet here to really explore the richness of this. But there's a video which will give you an idea. This is taken in a gallery in an exhibition in Adelaide, South Australia, which is going on right now, which several, I don't know how many works are in the exhibition as a whole, but they're all from this book. So this video will give you a little taste of that. And in fact, actually before we go there, let me go back here. This is what Sutu's Instagram looks like. So again, how do you get the word out? How do you use the Instagram platform? And remember, Sutu is the person who also built this app. Every item in this book has a credit for artist, animator, and sound designer. And you'll see with the examples in this video that some are more sound effects, some are more melodic, some loop in different ways. And you'll see that also, of course, when you have a look at the book. Okay, so this is that page. This is that item. Let's have a watch. So that's all music that was created for this book. next examples. So when I looked at the book, what I found myself doing was to look at the image and ask myself, what will this do when it's animated? And sometimes I was totally surprised. Some are ironic, some are comical, some tell stories, some have a political message, all those different things. And so I really took time and I wanted to tell people about it also. I wanted to let people know as creators that this is a tool that's available and this is the potential for what this can do. And again, in those two examples, at the moment, Instagram is stabilizing the environment in which the work is seen. So those three examples showed how artists use music in AR apps. And the following examples focus on business decisions using smart speakers as the means to connect to customers. So the thing to think about here in the user interface is all about customer satisfaction, period. That's the top and bottom of it. So you have the home environment, and people are increasingly doing lots and lots of things with the voice user interface, the VUI, which are commonly called smart speakers, or people that use them will use whatever the brand name is, whether it's Siri, whether it's Alexa, whether it's Hey Google, whatever it is. The role of machines and automation in smart speakers is using an enormous amount of data, learning from new data, learning how each individual is interacting with the particular device. In this case, we're talking about the smart speaker chatbot device. And they aim to make the creative, the distribution, the marketing, and the customer satisfaction processes limitless. So again, thinking in business terms about what are the processes you use for creation, distribution, marketing, and for customer satisfaction. But we also, as we see on the bottom left here, what is the limit of the human capacity to ingest music? There's only so much people can remember. When I talked before about being overwhelmed by choice, people go in, they see all this music, and they go, oh, but I just want to hear Beyonce. There's a lot of research about this phenomenon called the blockbuster phenomenon, which is happening in movies and TV and on-demand video and on-demand music, where the big hits are getting bigger because there's too much choice. There are fewer bigger hits. So we have to think about what's the human capacity. How much can people remember? So Spinnin' Records, here's an example, here's the record label example. So Spinnin' Records is a dance label based in Holland. They were purchased last year by Warner Music Group for $100 million. So it's not a small company, it's a very successful company. And they've taken the decision, all right, we're now in this environment where people are going to be calling up our playlists by calling across the room, what are we going to name our playlist? So this got a certain amount of coverage in the media, with journalists trying this out and saying, well, what about fit? If I call it fit, does that do anything? So it's an experiment by a label to try to figure out how to manage this. And there's a lot of work being done by companies who are going to rely on the voice user interface devices. And just think of payment, for instance. If someone in your house calls out to you and says, do you want a beer? And you say, oh, yes. But then you've just triggered a payment because Alexa was sitting in the corner and you said yes, and your last interaction with Alexa had been whether you were going to buy something or not. So all these things around, because then how do you undo that? On websites now, on mobile devices now, it's easy enough to buy something you didn't mean to buy. So once that's in the home environment where other things are going on and you will say common words in lots of other different contexts, how do you sort that out? How does the device sort that out as a business tool, as a communication tool, as a device to help people in their homes? Because of course that's how these are all being put forward to make your life better, make your life easier. So just one example here, in the covers that I saw, they didn't say what these used to be called, except for the one that's now called 100, used to be called the Spinnin' Top 100. So by trying to get words that are short, that's one of the goals, and words that are memorable. One of the other things to think about is if you have a playlist that has a distinctive name. One of the biggest Spotify playlists is called Rap Caviar. Very distinctive name, puts together two words that aren't usually together. It's become a brand. It's really well known. It's, if not their, it's, yeah, I think if not their top, they're in the top 2 of all Spotify playlists. So how many combinations of words in interesting ways can a human remember? There's a limit to that. And if you're going to think about how do you rename things, how do you have people interact with what you're producing artistically, you have to think about this new environment in the home with the smart speakers. So the other example takes us back to 1900. A company called QRS Music was founded in 1900 to make piano rolls. Some of you in the room don't know what a piano roll is, probably many of you. There were player pianos. They had rolls. The paper roll went in, it had holes punched in it, and it played the piano. People think this business is gone. This business is not gone. QRS Music, now called QRS Music Technologies, Inc., is an amazingly rich example of the ways in which one company can make decisions to move into the digital world. In fact, I was surprised in investigating the company. I was surprised at how recently they still made piano rolls, and I believe they still have piano rolls for sale on their website. What I'm going to show you here is they've invented new ways to control a player piano. So let's go to that video.
Alexa, ask piano to play my favorites playlist.
I heard play my favorites playlist.
Alexa, ask piano to play next song.
I heard next.
So there's several different controls here, as you can see. The piano app is a product of QRS. QRS works with piano makers. There's a way that you can retrofit your piano to become a player piano. And it's integrated into the smart speaker environment. So it's an example of radical transformation of a company. So let's talk a bit about these last 2 examples, illustrate digital music and some of the business ownership and business decisions that go on. We're going to think about how developers avoid obsolescence. And avoiding obsolescence takes investment in supporting technology, financial support, business priority support. That's the other thing. So here is just a few points about those 2 augmented reality apps that we looked at before. EyeJack is an artist-created app that's independently owned. That book, Prosthetic Reality, was originally funded using Kickstarter. These are Australian dollars. 7,000 was the goal, and where they achieved 12,000, and the book was published. Layar, launched in almost 10 years ago, 2009, sold to a company called Blipar in 2014. Blipar has used Layar and now their own app called Blipar, the same as the company name, in many different environments across all sorts of industries. Consumer goods, I was looking at something from Blipar just this morning. It's an example of an Ariana Grande perfume. And you get this augmented reality that pops out, exclusive videos, a link to buy the perfume at Macy's. All these things move around through while you're looking through your phone, through the app, at the image of the perfume that's on the website. So Blipar bought Layar, but still operates Layar independently. It's not supported as much as it used to be, and my assumption is that it will disappear. Last year, there were some media reports about two of the original founders of Layar seeking to buy it back. Layar's still marketed separately. As I said, they have, that's their Twitter. This is as recent as July 6th. Like many companies, they had a World Cup football theme there. And their goal is to make it easy for people to use these tools to create things. And Blipar has continued that, and at some point, my assumption, looking at the direction that this is going, is that Blipar will take over Layar, and whether the Blipar app will activate things in Layar. I tried to test this morning, and actually just this morning, I heard back from somebody at Blipar. I had written to the sort of hello Layar address by email, and I heard back this morning from somebody from Blipar with some more information. So I'm going to be continuing to follow that up, because what happens to everything that's been created in Layar if Layar completely disappears? In terms of of EyeJack, I have been in touch with Sutu in Australia, and he has talked to me about how the app is used both in exhibition settings, as we saw in the video. There's also a platform now for artists to start to collaborate. The beta is going to come out of that within the next couple of months. And they also have they're going to be building a platform where creators as subscribers can use the app. Layar, Blipar are the same. If you're a developer, if you're a creator, you sign up, you use the tools, you pay a certain fee to be able to publish. So you can, I think without a fee, you can learn how to use it, because they want people to learn how to use it. So this gets back to, how do you adapt? How do you scale? How do you make the business have longevity into the future? So these, and then the last example is, and we're back to Scorpion Dagger, James Kerr. So he also did a book published in Canada by a publisher called Antiism. This is the Kickstarter page. Their goal was $29,000 Canadian dollars, and they raised just over $29,000. As you can see, it's very small at the bottom there. And what's interesting here is that the book was created using this app called Metaio, which was acquired by Apple. When Apple makes this kind of technology acquisition, it tends to disappear from the market. Unlike Layar, with Blipar, it could have been just folded into and become the groundwork for a new app. What Apple tends to do, they did it with Lala, which was a music streaming service, which is now the back end of Apple Music. So they buy it and it disappears. However, when you go to the website for this, for the publisher, that shows, there it is. if you go to the publisher website here, you see that the app that you should use to view the book is called ar.book. So clearly, the way the book is constructed, it's usable not just on the app that was used or the platform that was used to create it by the artist, which was Matayo, but also can be used on this new app called AR Book. So this shows how platforms change and apps change, and artists engage with these platforms in different ways over time to reach an audience, to build an audience, and to create new things. So I've been asked to leave a few minutes for questions, so I'm happy to answer your questions. Questions? Comments? Yes, please.
Very cool. Very awesome. Very interesting in terms of how, like, I'm an artist and a musician and a visual artist, and just to see that the possibilities of what can be done,
Yep,
it's
great.
quite incredible. I'm happy I'm here.
Good.
Any other questions?
And I've got the book for you to look at. I'll be here during lunch if people want to have other conversations. I encourage you to look at all the variety that's in here and to explore new things. Thank you.
So for everyone who is watching on the live stream, we'll be back at 12:45 with our next stream. It's on a different link, which you'll find on the Interactive Ontario YouTube channel. And that one will be Skyping in Carlotta Danini, who's in the UK. She works with Imogen Heap with Mycelia on the Creative Passport, which is a blockchain-based music concept for artists that they're working on right now. So that'll be a really interesting talk. We saw her yesterday in Ottawa. So if you're here in person, we have lunch out there, and then we'll be back in here in this room at 12:45. So thank you.